It is 9 a.m. Wednesday morning, and we have our first 2 posts in. They're not quite plumb, but they'll get there. Scott over at Essential Craftsman says that the biggest part of construction is sort of logistics and materials handling. So this morning, a little crane thing got stuck in a hole. They were using that instead of the skid steer because the skid steers run out of diesel. We're getting our trusses delivered. Spent a long time chatting with the driver. He did a fantastic job. That's a 30-foot bed. We have some tricky turns coming down from the road, but he was able to make it down here, which is a good sign because next week we're getting another shipping container delivered to lie down here, which will be storage while we're renovating the main house, and it'll be good storage for the shop once the house renovation is done. But we have some trusses. We have the posts in, or 2 of them in at least. The plan for the remainder of this week is to get the rest of the post holes up and hopefully by Friday get those trusses up. As you can probably tell from the sky, the weather is taking a turn. The sooner we get those trusses up, the sooner we can get the roof on, and the sooner the site will be dry. So I've got to head out today, but this is a quick morning update. Interested to see what we're up to by the end of the day.
He's asking how we packed on the gravel.
Push it.
Instead of with the sledgehammer.
Push it towards me. More.
These holes are deep.
Oh.
These are deep holes.
That thing stuck on something.
Real county worker style right
Can you shovel some gravel on this side down here so it doesn't slide too much?
It's Saturday morning and we've wrapped up our first week of having the construction crew out here on the site building the shop. It's been a pretty good week. We started off the week by drilling or augering out the post holes. Didn't run into too many rocks, which was great. Got the concrete pads at the bottom. Got the posts roughly set in. In between those two, we lost a day on Tuesday with the post holes being inspected. But the posts are in. They're all within sort of half an inch of where they are supposed to be on the plan, which is totally fine for this stage of rough work. We did get the strapping on the front and the back, which sort of lock the posts to lateral position. We also need some boards across the bottom to establish grade. But while we weren't able to get the trusses up, they were able to sort of block those out and get them ready to be mounted and to have the purlins which run lengthwise across the ceiling or across the roof put on once the trusses are up. So the structure of this building has these posts forming the walls. On the outside, we're going to have metal sheathing. On the inside, I want to have plywood. Running inside the wall cavities, I've got a 2x6 here showing you, there are these elements that run horizontally called girts. Girts run this way, purlins sort of run that way along the roof, but today we're talking about girts. When I was drawing this up and sort of thinking about how it would be constructed, I was working under the assumption that the post would be 6x6, and if you had a 6-inch girt mounted this way, this is what's called a commercial girt installation. They're typically done like that, or sorry, like that on the exterior, but if you do it commercial, it should be flush like that. And I thought, okay, great, 6x6 posts, 2x6 girts, we'll have a flush exterior, flush interior. Couple of problems. Problem number one is that this is a dimensional lumber 2x6 that actually measures 1.5 inches across this way, 5.5 inches across that way. That's what you expect for sort of dimensional lumber. This post, if you look at it, while it's a 6x6, if I can get it flush here, it's kind of hard to see, it's actually closer to 6 inches. There is a nice 1/4 inch back there, so it's this one's, if I get it flush completely at the front, it actually measures 5 7/8. So that would leave us with a gap between either on the front or the back. That's problem number one. Problem number two is the girts don't actually get mounted like this. Because of those top boards and the bottom boards that'll be installed down there, the front of the wall is actually 1.5 inches out. So the girts are mounted sticking out by 1.5 inches, which leaves us with a pretty big gap back here that we'd have to fill. So what we talked about is potentially having those sticking out there, then putting a 2x4. It would have to be that way to get it flush on the interior. But that's not going to work for a couple of reasons. One of the big reasons is not all the posts are 6x6. I saw this when they were being delivered, and on Thursday we sort of worked it out. 6x8. So while you could have a 2x6 mounted there and a 2x4 mounted on the front, or getting it flush on the front, that would be very expensive. The lumber costs wouldn't be too bad. 2x4s are relatively cheap. The expensive part would be the labour. You'd have to do all the girts running along the front and all the girts running along the interior as well, and that's double the labour cost, and labour is the expensive part here. So what we ended up deciding to do is sending back all of our 2x6 material, or nearly all of it, and going with 2x10s. I'll show you a diagram, but if you put a 2x10 on the front and have it sticking out by 1.5 inches, it comes to be, so it's sticking out by 1/4 inch roughly on the back, which means all you need to do is fur out the post rather than fur out a large gap in between the posts. It's expensive to go from 2x6s to 2x10s, but there is some upside to it. The lumberyard will take back the 2x6s sort of at cost. They're bringing a truck out here anyway to deliver the 2x10s. And I was going to buy a bunch of 2x6s anyway to frame out the interior walls. And I'd budgeted sort of my local lumberyard's price for those, saving about $3 a board by buying the ones that are already here, that have already been delivered to the site. Because they don't have to pay the delivery costs again, and they were bought in bulk through a larger contractor, and they got better pricing. So I'm going to see that as a bit of an upside. Yes, it's going to cost me a little bit of money, but that's how you learn. It'll give us the result that I want on the inside, and I have my 2x6s ready for the framing interior once we get to that. So the week's a pretty good week. I've got a fair bit done. Got a bit of stuff to do over the weekend to prepare for the shipping container, but I'm looking forward to showing you what we get up to next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.